welcome to the first Breadcrumbs webinar. So happy to have you join us today. So excited to start what will be a series of webinars. We actually have the second one already planned and scheduled for a month from today. Stay tuned. We'll be talking a little bit about that towards the end of today's session. But today, we are so lucky to have a very excellent guest, someone who's been fundamental to the success of Breadcrumbs to date. And he's going to be letting you in behind the curtain to see what we've been doing to help us grow and hopefully give you very practical tips on how you can use the same tactics for your own growth. So today's session, how to get more leads for your SaaS business by using LinkedIn and Facebook advertising. So today we are going to be covering 4 key topics. Why to use paid social, marketing funnel basics, lead gen, and remarketing. And to lead the session today, we're going to be joined by Paul Fairbrother. I'm Gary Amaral, Chief Marketing Officer and co-founder here at Breadcrumbs, and the beneficiary of all of Paul's hard work. Paul, I'll let you introduce yourself and kick off the session.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks for hosting me today. So yeah, I'm Paul. I'm a social ad specialist. I run my own small agency. So I specialize on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram ads. If anybody's got any questions after this webinar, you can always reach out to me. My website is fairbrother.io, or you can find me on LinkedIn, or just email me, paul@fairbrother.io. Happy to help with any questions. Also provide managed ad services and one-to-one strategy sessions. So without further ado, let's dive into today's topics. By the way, we are recording, so if you don't want to take too many notes or you need to catch up afterwards, absolutely fine. We'll be sending that out by email there. Just a little kind of caveat is what we're going to cover today, why we're doing this session basically, is we're not going to be covering theory. There's plenty of people out there and now AI bots just regurgitating blog posts. And what they do is they give you tactics. They tell you how to do things, but not strategy, like why you should do something, should you do something. So instead, we're not really going to go through the tactics. Instead, we're going to just unpack what actually worked and also what didn't for Breadcrumbs. So we're going to be using real examples, real data, real ad spend. So I hope you find that refreshing. Hope you find that useful. The kind of disclaimer there, it's always worth remembering that every brand needs a different ad strategy. So we're not going to say, this is definitely going to work for you. We're going to say, this is what worked for us. So always be prepared to test. Testing, trying out different things is always really important. And then adjusting your strategy based on what the data says. The nice thing with social advertising is the platforms are very data-led. As I saw in a course I took recently, they said, take the parts that work for you, leave behind the bits that don't. So that's why we want to unpack what we did at Breadcrumbs. And you can just, if there's some good ideas that spark interest, take them forward. If there's some bits that you don't think are relevant to your brand, absolutely fine. You can leave those behind. Nothing lost there. So what we're going to do now is start by just asking that why question. We won't dwell on this too long, but why should we use social media for our SaaS businesses at all? Really, the reason that we don't just use our other lead gen sources is that, first of all, conferences are great, but they're hard to scale. And Gary, I think you go to like a couple of conferences every year with Breadcrumbs.
Yeah, absolutely. We love conferences. They definitely have their drawbacks, Paul. They're very time consuming. They're very expensive. And they usually have a very long tail in terms of ROI. But a couple that I love, Inbound is HubSpot's conference in Boston. We will be there. So please, if you're there, come by and say hello. And then we have a very special partnership with SaaStock. We will be at SaaStock Austin in about a month's time, and SaaStock Dublin in the fall. If you're in the SaaS space at all, by far the best conference in that space, in my opinion.
Thanks, Gary. So yeah, conferences are great, but like you said, they're very time consuming, quite expensive. If they've got the other ad channels, you think everything is kind of moving more subscription based than ad free. So things like news sites, TV sites, music sites, they're all moving to things that are either very ad light or no ads at all. Things like Netflix, not many people have the ad version on there. Apple TVs ad free, Apple Music ad free, and so on. So social is really a good way of getting in front of people. But then organic social reach these days is very limited for businesses. I know in about 2018, Mark Zuckerberg said he was going to prioritize posts from people rather than businesses. And I saw a really interesting research post, I think it was the end of last week, showing that in the last few years, LinkedIn has really shifted from like organic content for business pages to paid. Just like the other platforms, LinkedIn is moving more of a pay to play platform. None of them exclusively, but adding that paid layer is really important. So why do I really like social as well as thinking that it's good to get some extra leads? First of all, it's consistency compared to say like those conferences, you get that lovely regular like drip feed of leads coming in there. Budgets are really predictable. You can set your monthly budget, your quarterly budget, your yearly budget there. And then of course, you don't have to use it exclusively. The idea is that you get the synergy between paid social and your other traffic channels. For example, imagine that you do go to that conference, you get lots of website visits off that. You can then scoop up those audiences and remarket them on like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and so on there. So it really combines with any other kind of outreach that you're doing there. Then finally, you've got that accountability. The nice thing with paid social is that you can really track the metrics. You can look at your cost per lead. If you're doing your CRM right, you should then be tagging your leads when they come in, and they can follow them through the buyer journey to see what ad, what campaign, what lead form resulted in the sale there. So hopefully that's giving you an idea of why we use our paid social as part of our overall marketing efforts. Now let's look at the kind of real basic marketing funnel. So you're probably thinking here, okay, what the heck is this, Paul? So let's unpack this. This is actually a very simple funnel. You can make them more complex, more whizzy, but I'm just kind of showing you the simple 3-step funnel that we use at Breadcrumbs. So to explain what we can see here, at the top of the funnel, we have LinkedIn. So that's LinkedIn ads. We can run a lead magnet, like a PDF download, get people to then fill in the lead form to get that. Put that into our CRM. Sometimes you need to use a sync tool like Zapier or LeadsBridge, but a lot of CRMs like HubSpot have got it built in. Of course, you can also do the same on your organic channels. You can promote your lead magnets organically, get people to fill in a form on a website, and that's going into the same kind of journey there, and remarket people by email, both with an automated welcome sequence and then your regular newsletters. Then what we do is the second stage, the middle of the funnel, is we can get those audiences, your email lists, your website visitors, if we've got the Meta Pixel installed and the LinkedIn Insight tag. We can build those audiences, and then engagers of like your LinkedIn page, Facebook page, Instagram profile, and we can remarket them. So then middle of the funnel, kind of warm them up with some videos and blog posts. So the idea is just that nurturing. And then of course, bottom of the funnel, that's where we then remarket yet again with getting people to book a demo call, take out a trial, get a freemium version of your product, however it is. So though there's lots of icons here, it's just really simple 3 steps. I've got it here. Run some prospecting ads for LinkedIn lead gen, nurture them with video ads, blog posts on Meta and LinkedIn, and then get your demos and trials lower in the funnel there. So we're just going to kind of have a slight diversion now, and just going to give you a slight love letter from me to LinkedIn about why I really focus heavily on LinkedIn ads. First of all, LinkedIn, people are on there to do business. They're not there to look at the funny cat videos, wedding photos, your food pictures from last night and so on. They are there in a business frame set. They're really focusing there and looking at either finding new jobs or finding new software opportunities, that sort of thing there. Second is there's nothing that comes close to it for B2B audience targeting. It's got the best in the planet B2B options, as we'll see later. Users trust the ads. You've seen some other platforms, especially ones owned by a certain Elon Musk. You're getting lots of kind of crypto scam ads, low value drop shipping ads, all sorts of things there. The ads on LinkedIn tend to be run by the likes of Microsoft, Adobe, SAP, Xero, so on. Then if you haven't looked at Campaign Manager recently, which is LinkedIn's ad platform, look again. It's really improved in the last couple of years. And like every week I'm seeing new releases. To be honest, that has been a few years behind kind of Meta's ad platform, but it's catching up rapidly. They've got a really good roadmap. It is expensive though. So you're not going to get the cheapest clicks, but you are going to get good quality clicks there. These are some of the high-level categories of audiences that we can remarket on, that we can prospect to on LinkedIn. So here there's 21 kind of total categories, and then there are some subcategories for this. So I'm not joking when I said it's got the best B2B targeting on the planet. Some of the things that we find quite useful is like company size, company revenue. Most businesses out there will have an idea of their ideal customer persona. Maybe you go after SMBs, maybe it's mid-market, maybe enterprise or large enterprise. You can really separate those out on the platform there. Or maybe you need to target by job seniority. So one of the things sometimes at Breadcrumbs is we want to be targeting the decision makers. So you can target by, say, managers, but you can also go to like VPs, C-level. There's lots of options there. Also job titles, if you just want to reach the like the marketing team or like the sales team, or I've got like a client that does learning and development packages and they want to reach kind of HR. So we can go and target by all of those. We can target if we want professionals, things like degrees, members' schools, fields of study there. So lots of things. We can even look at high growth companies by looking at their growth rate there. So these options, like Meta just doesn't have anywhere near these options, and the other social platforms don't either there. Then there's what's called matched audiences. These are known also as custom audiences on Meta. So this is where you can remarket people that have interacted with you. They can upload lists of like contacts. You can remarket to people that visit your company page, that maybe have watched one of your LinkedIn live events, filled in a lead form, or clicked on your ads. Or something that's quite useful sometimes is the video ads, where you can like run say a 30 to 60 second video ad, remarket viewers, and then show them something like a lead form there. And also if you've got that insight tag installed, which is completely free to install, then you can go and build an audience of website visitors. You can segment them in some ways as well, and then remarket those. So lots of really powerful options, both for prospecting, cold traffic, and for remarketing with the warm audiences there. So that's an idea basically of like the funnel and why we are leaning quite heavily on LinkedIn. Obviously, your best social channels depend on your business. Always test, try some different ones out. But just if you haven't looked at LinkedIn recently, it's time to revisit. I've been doing lots of strategy calls recently where companies are like a perfect fit for LinkedIn, and they're just not using it because they kind of had a little play with it 2-3 years ago, didn't really get on with it. They've been running Meta ads for many, many years, so just gave up on it. So please revisit it if you haven't used it recently there. So what we're going to be doing now is looking at the top of the funnel in more detail. We're going to unpack what we do there. And what we do at Breadcrumbs is really lean on lead generation. So that's where we're giving people something of value. You can be doing like quizzes, gated content like videos, but what we find works really well is the classic lead magnet for business. Your PDF downloads, can be brochures, guides, case studies, but we find giving people something of value, which we'll see in a second, some examples, but you're kind of like your checklists, your worksheets, something that's short, actionable, but they'll find useful. We're not going for the sale at this stage. So the first thing that we did to really improve our cost per lead is we actually just tested the offer. You'll hear other LinkedIn ads experts talk about this. If there's only one thing you do on LinkedIn ads, is to be testing your offer. It's going to have the biggest impact. So what we did here is we tested 5 different ebooks. We had these already, so it's a natural place to start. So you can see the kind of ads here. We've got 5 ebooks like ideal customer profile, lead scoring for acquisition workbook, lead scoring template, and so on. So we tested those and we found that some just didn't get any traction at all. They're well over $150 a lead. They're just crickets. Nobody was interested. And then the best one was actually the one at the bottom, the ICP worksheet, which got leads around about $70 each. So straight away, just by testing your offers, we got lots more leads and halved our cost per lead there. So once we found our best offer, no need to keep testing that. It's quite resource intensive to produce more lead magnets. So we moved on to testing the image. And what we did on this is move from landscape to square, and we simplified the graphic. So you can see here, the one on the left is what we used originally, the classic landscape kind of ad format, whereas now LinkedIn in the last year or so has really pushed us towards square. It's great because it takes up the same amount of like the horizontal space, but you get a lot more vertical space. So it fills up more room on the screen, it's more eye-catching. It doubled our click-through rate, and that halved our cost per lead, especially when we kind of took some of the text off there, just made it less clutter. So I hate those guides that say, you know, there's one quick tip that will revolutionize your ads, because it sounds really spammy. But in this case, just by changing the graphic, same offer, that halved our cost per lead, doubled our amount of traffic. So really, you can see why testing some of the big hitting things like images can make a really big difference there. So we did that methodical process, test the offer, test the image, and each time we halved our cost per lead. Then what we did as well then is try to test lead forms. This is the ones that pop up on LinkedIn. They're built into LinkedIn, very quick to build. They're very user-friendly because it pre-fills in their data from their profile. Tested that against classic website landing page. What we found for us, and I know this definitely will vary by brand to test out, is that we found that we've got a lower cost per lead on lead forms without a difference in lead score. So this is where plugging in breadcrumbs can be very useful, because it's not about the sheer cost per lead. It's all about quality over quantity. So the great thing is, by plugging breadcrumbs into our ads funnel, which Gary will explain later, we can make sure that we're on track with our lead quality. So the lead forms have less tracking issues. That then allowed enhanced optimization. There's no issues with the iOS, Apple privacy tracking issues that you get on websites if you're using LinkedIn lead forms, because the data is kept in the platform there. Also, lead forms much more user-friendly because the data is pre-filled in for LinkedIn. So if you're asking for like job titles, companies, that can get a bit cumbersome to fill in, especially on a mobile device, which is about 50% of LinkedIn ad views now. So yeah, the lead forms, very quick to build, very, very good for the business, very good for the user. Just keep an eye on the lead quality, but it worked out really well for us. So like you'll see, the ads actually will look very similar. On the left, we have the ad using the LinkedIn lead form. On the right, the one where you go to the website. It's a different call to action button, but basically similar. You're not having to use different content. Of course, you've got to go and create the landing page and the lead form. So some work there, but very, very easy test to do. And that helped us reduce that cost per lead down a bit more. And because leads are quite expensive on LinkedIn, you know, the more we can squeeze out of the platform, then the better. This is an example, by the way. If you haven't seen the lead forms, they're fully configurable. So you can configure like the image and the questions that you add. You kind of drag and drop to build the forms. So you can ask for like company name, job title, country, and so on there. They've also got it that you can specify like a work email instead of like their general email. And I think LinkedIn is rolling out validation for the emails. I haven't tested that. Like I said earlier, there's so many new LinkedIn features that are being tested. Some advertisers have them, some don't. But they're doing a lot of work on the lead forms. It's something that LinkedIn is really heavily leaning into. So kind of like a really good resource there. So we've tested like images, the offer. We've tested like landing pages versus lead forms. So next we move to the text, because this has less impact than the images. And what we did is we took our human generated text, and then we also fed like the lead magnet and the landing page for on the website into Jasper and ChatGPT, and we thought we'd see which one produces the best there. Now, overall, I would say it's I would call it a draw. For the longest time, us humans were winning, and now Jasper has kind of pulled ahead, but there's really not much in it. But what I would say at this stage is that probably a combination of like human and AI is good. So AI is good for coming up with some of the format, but we noticed, for example, that Jasper was like using too many emojis, and there are limits. You can only put about 4 or 5 emojis in a LinkedIn ad. ChatGPT, the text was too long, even though we told it to shorten it, and things like that. So what we find is that if you kind of come up with some ideas from AI and then just use that human touch, just don't blindly copy and paste it, that can work well. So if you want to use humans, that's great. Your internal resources, they're going to give good results. AI can give good results, but I think you really need to babysit the AI at this stage. I was speaking to somebody that's going to be working for Jasper in a week or two, and she was saying that on the platform, with some of the packages, you can upload like brand guidelines. So I think there's some really good work that they're doing, and AI is still new. So I'm not going to dismiss it, but the kind of like a light touch of AI can work really well there. And you see, just to give you some examples, the ad on the left is the one that we created, just like one sentence. The nice thing is that humans keep it a bit shorter. The one in the middle from ChatGPT, again, we had to cut it down a bit because for lead ads, you only have something like 600 characters. And then the one on the right was when we pruned some of the emojis there in Jasper. And then what we also did as well for prospecting, as well as the like day-to-day lead generation, we ran that most of the time, but we also ran Hot Takes Live event. Like, you can't run this all the time because it's a specific event. What Hot Takes Live is it's kind of like the Breadcrumbs equivalent of TED Talks. So 48 speakers giving kind of 10-15-minute talks, and kind of giving a slightly controversial take on things there. So what we did to promote this is, first of all, tried some video ads. We took some of the past talks, so little teaser videos, and ran those. And we tested it against carousels. Now, quite simply, carousels just don't work all that well on LinkedIn ads. People are really tempted to use them because they think, hey, if I have 5 images, I've got 5 times more chance to get a click. But less is more on social platforms. I see the same on Facebook and Instagram. So by all means, test carousels, but they're much more resource intensive, and they just don't work that well. So single images, single videos like the one on the right compared to the carousel on the left, yeah, much, much cheaper cost per click. So don't be tempted to start with carousels because you think, hey, I've got loads of images there. By all means, test later, but they just don't work for us. And with more resources, we don't really need those there. Next thing we tested was LinkedIn versus Facebook. So the LinkedIn cost per click was 5 times higher. Like I said at the beginning, LinkedIn is an expensive platform. You're paying for the quality, you're paying for the attention that you get there. So when we do the ebook lead generation as the sort of first touch, the prospecting, we prefer the precise targeting on LinkedIn. But because Hot Takes Live is a much more general event with a broader appeal, we can cast a wider net. So really what we were looking at, and we could use Breadcrumbs for this, is we could look at the lead quality, the lead score versus the lead cost. And so, to be honest, the Facebook lead quality was lower, but it was also significantly cheaper per lead. So because we were scoring our leads, we could make an informed decision, which we couldn't do if we were just looking at the pure cost per lead. So yes, in this case, it's kind of like more of a volume play on Facebook. And then day to day, we're using LinkedIn lead forms with the lead magnet as more of a quality play there. So here's a couple of the ads. The one on the left is on Facebook, the lead form. The one on the right is the lead form that we used on LinkedIn there. Now, something you'll notice is the ad formats are very, very similar. So the great thing is, if you're running LinkedIn ads, you can run Facebook and Instagram ads, very, very similar. It's not like you're having to have completely different ad creative. So that's why we like to mix and match Facebook and Instagram Facebook and LinkedIn to some extent there. Square images, headline beneath. They can both use lead forms if you want to, or website traffic, add text above. Very, very simple there. One thing that's not so good, I would say, is Instagram stories, Instagram reels. They need vertical format content, and especially for reels, more kind of video based. But if you're using Square newsfeed on Facebook and Insta, very similar to LinkedIn newsfeed there. So what we also did as a test, like you can see, we're absolutely obsessed with testing now. Don't get me wrong, we weren't running like millions of tests at once. You're just methodical. You run one test, get a conclusion, you can then regroup and run the next. You don't have to throw everything out there at once. This is a process that takes months to do. But each time we're just chipping away at our cost per lead and our cost per click there. So we tried on this using lead forms versus the webinar page. In this case, the lead form was far, far lower cost per lead. Part of the issue was the webinar was being hosted on a third-party platform, so we couldn't put the Meta Pixel or the LinkedIn Insight tag on there. So we couldn't optimize for leads, only for clicks. So I think especially if you're using third-party platforms as part of your tech stack, if you can't go and pixel those, lead forms are super valuable for that there. And yeah, because the lead forms allowed us to optimize for conversions, that definitely helped us put the ads in front of the right people there. So yeah, here's a couple of the ads. The one on the left is a Facebook ad taking people through to the website to sign up. And the one on the right is the Facebook form, where the form pops up when somebody clicks on the sign up button there. So you see very, very similar ads. So this is a great test to run because it's so easy to go and run those two different tests there. Then as a final test on this, we also tested the images on this. Now, what we found is that a simple change can make a big difference on this. So if we just go ahead, excuse me. So the image that we used on the left, we put the date on there. So we're going more technical, more specifics. Just didn't get much traction. Once we changed that on the right to like big red banner, register for free. We tried different versions of the other text on there, but really just like really clear call to action, not going too much into the weeds with the details, really changed our cost per lead. So that we saw with the LinkedIn kind of lead magnets is really optimizing your images can make a big difference. And again, I don't like to sound all clickbaity, but sometimes these one quick changes can make a big difference. So, if you're kind of like not getting anywhere with your ads, don't just give up after a couple of campaigns. Test until you find something that works, and then you can scale it up there. All right, so that's the top of the funnel, looking at like event ads, doing lead magnet ads. And now we're going to flip things around and look at remarketing. So we're going to move on to the middle and lower part of the funnels now. So first of all, there's MOFU, which stands for middle of the funnel. This is your nurture stage. This is when you've got the awareness and engagement, or in our case, leads, but it's before the kind of like sales and demo stage. So what we generally do on this is just about nurturing those up. We've got the leads. Let's warm them up before we try and sell to them. And this kind of content we use, mainly blog posts and videos. So we're giving value there. Like some of the video campaigns, we can just run like a 60-second product video. Well, we've got a series of videos called the Rap Squad. And I think there's episode 3 is coming out soon on there. So keep an eye out for that. But these are great just to run these for like video views. So we generally ran these on Facebook. We tried LinkedIn as well, but like on Facebook, video views are very cheap. We optimized for 3play, which is like 15-second video views. So quality over the quantity. We didn't optimize for the 3-second video views. Super cheap, like 3 cents per 3play. And you only need a small budget for this. So it's just that little nurture for like $5-10 per day for 3 cents per view. Why not warm up your audiences before you sell them? It's an absolute no-brainer there. then what we do as well, we really double down on content marketing. Cecilia, our head of content, produces lots of blog posts. So we've got those blogs there. So let's use those. So what we can do is just go and promote the blog posts. And as new blogs get published on our website, we can add those into our social ad campaigns, and then we can take out some old ones. We can also look at our cost per click and see what the results are and prune any expensive ones. But really, you probably want a rotating mix of like half a dozen blog posts. Again, so people can see them, click for them, always keeps you top of mind there as well. So that can be really good to have that content to go along with the videos. So in this case, we use Facebook and LinkedIn. We optimize for website traffic, so LinkedIn, so for link clicks. There's a difference, cost per click under $2 on Facebook and under about $5 on LinkedIn. So we can use both of those there because, of course, it's a fairly small audience for remarketing. So we're not putting a huge budget into this. I think I said on that funnel diagram, around about 15% of your budget goes to middle of funnel, about 15% to bottom of the funnel, and the 70% goes to the top on prospecting. So small budgets, that can work really well there. So we've warmed up our audiences now. So we've got the leads, we've then nurtured them with video, blog content, anything else that you want to go and promote to them. And now we're going to bottom of the funnel. So this is demos, trials, calls. This is the show me the money stage. This is the kind of sales stage that we're looking for now. So give you some examples of the ads that we run. Book a demo. These are the ones that we started with. So your classic, go and get people through to a website landing page, and then they can go and book a time there. We also spice things up a little bit here, try and make them stand out a bit more. To be honest, some of the ads that you see on LinkedIn, when I scroll through my newsfeed, are pretty dull. They make them a bit too business-like. So it's like, well, if you can stand out with the graphics, also good there. Just some little tips on coloration there is Facebook and LinkedIn. The color palettes that they use are they kind of like light blues, grays, whites. And I've seen ads where people use that blue and gray, and you just scroll past the ads subconsciously. It just blends in with the background of the platform. So I urge you to think about your color schemes. Breadcrumbs, obviously, we double down on yellow because that's the kind of brand colors. But yellows, oranges, bright greens can work well. You're probably all familiar with Gong, who do like the cool software. So they use a lot of purple and yellow. Gong ads really stand out in the LinkedIn newsfeed. They run quite a few ads. So color schemes are really, really important there. So just think about that with your ads. Don't try and make them too boring, too corporate. Yeah, of course, we don't want them spammy and clickbaity, but, you know, let's not bore our audience to sleep there. So what we do on there is we definitely, in this case, take people through to the landing page. Couple of reasons why we're not using lead forms here. The first is that you need that bit more interaction, is they need to go and book a time, which you can't really do on lead forms, certainly not on LinkedIn. And also just like we've already nurtured them, so a little bit more friction is fine. The prospect is prepared to do a bit more work rather than just like click submit on a lead form. And of course, we want to make sure that the person booking a demo is knowing what they're signing up to. So yeah, landing pages can work really well in this case. We also do freemiums. I'm going to get Gary to jump on in a second and just give us his thoughts on like freemium versus like demos. But I'll just show you a couple of the ads here first. So this is some of the ads where people can like click through to freemium, and they can then get a version of Breadcrumbs for free. And you can try this on the website, by the way, where you can start like scoring some of your leads as an alternative. So Gary, if you're there, have you got any thoughts on like what's best between like demos and freemium? Cool. I think Gary's otherwise in. Oh, here he is. Here he is.
Here. Sorry, I just had to add myself to the stream. My apologies. Listen, I think they both have their place. Obviously, I'm a very revenue-focused marketer. Some might even call me old school. And I'd love to get leads in front of sales as quickly as humanly possible. But there is a place for people that want to experience the product, pardon me, and go through more of a PLG type motion. And that's really part of the marketing funnel, in my opinion, right? And so I agree with what you've been saying throughout the whole webinar, Paul. Test, 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 and see which one of these actually drives the kind of value, volume, and velocity and conversion that you're looking for.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. And yeah, the nice thing is you can switch these on and off. You can run them together. You don't have to just make one decision there. So some tips on bottom of the funnel there. Be prepared to bid high. You don't use bidding strategies too much on like Meta. That tends to be a bit more automated. But on like LinkedIn, a lot of times for prospecting on LinkedIn, we kind of like bid low because it's expensive. But in case of like remarketing, bid high, you really want to get these people to book a demo, take out a trial there. And it requires a small budget, like I was saying just then. About 70% of your budget goes to prospecting, 15% mid-funnel, 15% bottom of the funnel. Those figures are very flexible. It depends on your other traffic sources because we're remarketing people from other traffic. So say like you're really heavy on like Google ads, or maybe you get lots of organic traffic from YouTube or something, you might put more budget into middle and bottom of the funnel there. Keep an eye on your ad frequency with small audiences, which is generally the case for a lot of us B2B brands. You don't want to be hammering the audience too often. A kind of moderate frequency is fine. We don't just need to keep it at 1 or 2, like 5 or 10 views per person for our ads is fine. But, I've seen accounts where it's going up to like 20, 30 times they've seen our ads in a month, and that's just crazy. It just costs you money and you start annoying the people sometimes. So trying to avoid that banner blindness. Good little tip for tracking because of the iOS Apple data challenges. If you can like have a separate landing page for your trials or demos that come in from the ads, that can be useful. So what we do sometimes is we just take our landing page that we use organically and just clone it. So we don't make any changes, but it's like a second version. And then that link is used exclusively for ads. And we can say with certainty, anybody that signed up on that landing page must have come from our ads there. So that solves the kind of tracking issues. And final point, I did one of the Hot Takes live talks on this. My hot take was that the marketing funnel is a lot more complex than you think. It's more of a sales web than a sales funnel. People don't just go in a linear fashion from one stage to the other. They jump around, they do things organically. They might respond to your email rather than click on your ads. They might find about you from a third party and so on. So don't expect all tracking to be precise. Don't expect, everything to kind of add up in the funnel. What we normally find is that the more ads that you're running, then the more kind of organic that you get, and just everything it increases. So look at like the total number of leads coming in, the total number of demos, the total number of sales, the total number of calls. Don't just look at the ad figures too closely because they're not telling you the full picture there. Then this is one of my cheesy hipster graphics that I created in Mid-Journey. So kind of looking with our crystal ball, kind of what's next for what we're going to be doing with our ad strategy for kind of like Q2 and beyond in 2023. The next test we'll be running is what's called ABM. This is account-based marketing, kind of a cornerstone really of B2B. So what you can do on LinkedIn, super powerful, is you can upload a list of companies that you want to target. You create that hit list, and just in a CSV file, you list out companies to get a better match rate, put in their LinkedIn profile, their business URLs. You could put in things like their stock ticker as well, their address, but really their LinkedIn profile really helps. And then you can target those companies. Now you can also segment, you can use the other targeting options in there. So you can build a list of say 100 companies, but you can still target just the marketing managers in there or VPs and above. It's very, very powerful, especially as there's lots of third-party tools that will give you a list of companies to target. Second thing we might try is document ads. These are very similar to lead ads, but it's ungated content. So especially for like mid-funnel where we've already got the email, we can go and give them some ungated content there. The conversation ads, these are like messenger ads on Facebook where you can start a conversation. They're kind of revamping the format at the moment, especially in the EU due to some privacy laws. So LinkedIn are revamping them. So we're just going to put that slightly on ice and we'll revisit that soon. Then we're going to be producing more video content. Like I said, we've got another episode of Rap Squad coming out and some product explainers. I think that's really good once you've got the prospect into the funnel to go and remarket them with some videos. Also videos, had this conversation with a ex-colleague recently about the kind of like top of the funnel. Like for us, it's working really well going straight for the lead. For some of my brands that I manage their ads for, we find that doesn't work. And so what we do is we run some 60-second video ads first, warm up the audience, and then remarket like 25% video views or even 75% video views, and then give them the lead. So always test your funnel. Your funnel isn't set in stone. So yeah, for one of my brands, we just couldn't get it to work until we added in that video step. And now it's flying. They're getting some really good quality leads coming in. Final thing we'll probably do is double down on some more events like Hot Takes Live there. They're really good for general lead gen that you can then fill your pipeline for the next kind of like half a year going forward there. There's some things that didn't work for us. Instagram stories, it's not a B2B format. It's really there for like food, fashion, lifestyle. If you use all placements, like just check the box for all placements when you're running meta ads, it just mangled the ads. Technical term to mean that is trying to like put in a headline and add text and a square image into vertical format just didn't look good. If we produce like standalone vertical format, still doesn't look that well, just doesn't respond that well. Takes a lot of resources and like TikTok, not say it doesn't work, but again, it's much more of a B2C platform than B2B. And TikTok requires very specific creative. You need very certain look and feel to your videos. So very resource heavy. And then running cold traffic to demos and calls. Like Gary said, he's really focused on the revenue. We tried just like taking people straight to demos and sales. Just wasn't working so well. We just needed to put that lead gen step in first and then kind of mid-funnel there. So your kind of key takeaways, because we've covered a lot in this session. So to kind of summarize here, LinkedIn is really good for prospecting because the B2B targeting. Then LinkedIn and Meta for remarketing is good. Remember, people don't hang out on LinkedIn all day, but they do spend a lot of time on Facebook and Insta. Facebook and Instagram users, generally 66% of them visit every day. The average dwell time is between about 30 and 55 minutes. It goes up and down a bit every quarter, but people spend a lot of time on Facebook and Insta. So for remarketing, it's a great place there. Second thing, just focus on leads. If you get leads into your CRM, that allows you for long-term nurturing. Remember, sales cycles are often 6 to 18 months. That's going to get expensive for running ads. Whereas with the email marketing, that's cheaper, really good for long-term play there. Always offer value rather than going for a sale. People need to get something of value before they give up their valuable email address there. And then content marketing builds that long-term sustainable pipeline. If you've got good content, sometimes even if you turn the ads off, you still get lots of traffic, lots of leads there. And then finally, keep your ad creative, colorful so that you can kind of stop the scroll. Don't try and like go for the very muted colors. It is a bit clickbaity, but we need to get people to just stop, see the ad, and then evaluate the offer from there. So Gary, we've got a couple of slides now on lead scoring and things to consider. So over to you.
Yeah, I think that all of the great work that you do just funnels into what we do organically. Lead scoring is really an additional layer to better understand what these leads are across those different funnel stages and make sure we're delivering quality content across that buyer journey. And like I said, I want to get people in front of sales as quickly as possible. So if I can understand where they are in that buying journey and the appropriate time to have sales interject, I want to do that. And that's what lead scoring is for. A couple of considerations when you're using lead scoring related to your social ad program. We found it very wise to boost our scores on leads captured through paid channels. They are naturally more valuable. There are sometimes are challenges between the data that we can capture through other channels and social, and we do not want to penalize those leads because they came through social. In fact, we want to reward them for that. We also want to create a targeting loop with highly scored leads. We want to make sure that we're funneling back that information into Paul, so he knows who those folks are, and we can keep on top of those folks and deepen the relationship with them. Obviously, what I was alluding to before, the ability to develop nurtures that factor in the lead source and the lead score allow us to increase the relevance of that material, allows us to target those leads more appropriately, and make the information much more timely. And then the great thing about connecting the dots across the social ads program and then everything we do using lead scoring as the mechanism is providing much richer, deeper context to the sales team, so that a very first sales reach out is not an awkward, hey, have you heard of Breadcrumbs? It's a, hey, I see that you're really interested in how to build effective ICPs. Here's how we can help, or would you like to learn more? Or here's another resource that can be helpful. That context leads to much more meaningful conversations. And then, of course, this wouldn't be a Breadcrumbs webinar if I wasn't sharing why we should be using lead scoring. There's 3 great reasons of many. These are not our reasons. These are respected third-party sources that have been looking into lead scoring very recently. Salesforce says 77% increase in lead gen ROI is the expectation when you're using lead scoring appropriately. Forrester says 50% more sales-ready leads at a 33% lower cost per lead when you are using lead scoring appropriately. And finally, Marketing Sherpa, lead scoring can improve overall conversion rates by 79%. All of those numbers seem extremely compelling to me, and very strong reasons why we use lead scoring and why we built lead scoring, enterprise-grade lead scoring for everyone.
Thanks, Gary.
For the opportunity to pitch that, Paul. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Gary. So I go round up here with some resources. First of all, LinkedIn. The LinkedIn reps are awesome, so make friends with them. I know that on Meta, sometimes people have been a bit jaded by the quality of the reps. You get some good, some bad, but LinkedIn reps are really useful. In some cases, they can really help you, like, get kickstart things, help you with some of the audience targeting there. So they're good. You sometimes get like a little pop-up appear in your LinkedIn campaign manager asking if you want to book a call, so take advantage of that. Sometimes they reach out by email as well. Then LinkedIn Marketing Labs. So just Google LinkedIn Marketing Labs. They've got some really good certification courses. All the modules are free. They're bite-sized. They're coming straight from the horse's mouth from LinkedIn. They're really good. You can get certification as well. If you get to level 2, they even send you a really good mug and like a tumbler as well. So no downsides to doing that. On Meta as well, they have their equivalent Blueprint. Meta's slightly different, that the courses are, well, the content is free, but you do pay for certification. Certification isn't essential unless that's really good to put on, say, your LinkedIn profile, but all the content is ungated there. So that's another good resource if you're starting off. And something that's really useful is the ICP worksheet, which is one of our main lead magnets. Now, I'm not just saying this because I find it so good that I give this to other LinkedIn ads clients when they're looking to think about how to target. Like I said earlier, there's about 21 categories, and it's a bit complex where you start. So I give this to new clients, and I've had some really good positive feedback on this. And this is completely free. So just go to breadcrumbs.io and grab any of the ebooks that you want there. So just kind of saying thanks. And if there's any like feedbacks or comments after this webinar, you can always message me on LinkedIn, connect with me there. email me, paul@fairbrother.io, website's fairbrother.io. But let's open it up to Q&A now. To Gary, if we've got any questions coming in. And if you've got any questions now, please go and type them in the chat.
Yeah, Paul, we do have some questions. So Sarah asked, is the cost per lead an email address, a phone number, or someone booking a demo? This question came in when you were talking about the tofu part of the funnel. Yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, so our top of the funnel cost per lead. So I guess you would call that like an MQL, like a marketing qualified lead. So that's what we're looking at, saying it started off at over $150. Some months we've got that as low as $30. Now, for kind of context, kind of benchmark is around about $50 to $150. Like if I'm taking on a new client, I let them know you're not going to get $1 leads, you're not going to get $5 leads. It's about $50 to $150. When we got it down to about 30, our LinkedIn rep said, look, you're not going to get it any lower. I'm not going to give you any advice on that. We can move on from that section. So that was extremely low, but it's that methodical test. Test the offer, test the images, test the lead forms, test the text, and so on. Boom, boom, boom. Just running through that until you get it lower and lower and lower. And you think that if you can get say you've got like $10,000 per year to spend on ads, if you can do some A/B testing and reduce that down to like $5,000 for the same results, that's a huge saving. So A/B testing is really important there.
Yeah, but more generally speaking, Paul, I guess CPL is really defined based on what the objective is and what stage of the funnel, right? Like a CPL for Hot Takes Live is a registration. Right? So does that make sense to you?
Yeah, and I think sometimes people get really wrapped up in it's like, is this an MQL or SQL? And different people have different definitions. Yeah. So like you're saying, I think it's really looking at what you actually mean by it. Like, is it a registration? Is it an ebook? And that lead scoring, that's the real key thing, is to look at the quality and then follow that lead. So like, are they opening emails? Are they clicking through? Are they unsubscribing? And like what LinkedIn does is when a lead comes in, is it tags it with the lead form ID, the ad ID, and the campaign ID. So you can see what audience you were targeting, what ad creative, what lead form. So you can really follow them all the way through. So yes, like cost per lead is useful, but it's really looking at the qualified lead and seeing what they kind of do from there.
Cool. Jennifer asks, so are you only showing the MoFu and BoFu ads to those who've consumed your lead gen ads?
No, not always. Like I was simplifying our funnel a bit because otherwise we're getting really into the weeds. But what you can do is some of those other matched audience sources. So like just like profile visitors, website visitors, simply because for B2B, unless you're an absolutely huge brand like Microsoft, your audiences are fairly small. But because these are engaged audiences anyway, we might as well put them into our remarketing funnels. Social ad platforms, you're sort of paying for impression. Okay, it's not super cheap, but it's not super expensive. There's no point in discarding those people. So we'll put any of our matched audiences into remarketing. So of course, yeah, if you're like Salesforce or Microsoft, you can segment your website visitors from your lead forms, from your profile visitors. But really, we like to keep things simple. It tends to be more effective than really micro segmenting for us there.
Awesome. Two more quick questions before we wrap up. And I think these questions are more to, I guess my goal with these questions is to make people feel like social advertising is actually very approachable. So question number one, do I need a huge budget to do social advertising?
No, but with some caveats. So the nice thing with any of the platforms is you can start small and work your way up. So like on Meta, you can start from literally $1 a day and work up. LinkedIn is more expensive, depends on the campaign type, but maybe like $10 or $20 a day. So you can start small. You've got very short lead times to book in these ads. It's very different to, I'm going to show my age here, but I remember kind of like doing lots of magazine and newspaper advertising. And you'd have to take out the ad, you pay the money, and then it might work, it might not. You can't really track much on there. unless you're doing coupon codes or something fancy like that. So sometimes you'd put in, equivalent of $1,000, and then it just didn't work. You can't A/B test very easily at all. Because at least you can start very small, just focus on that, middle, lower funnel remarketing, and then expand out from there. The caveat is, though, that on LinkedIn, recommended budgets are around about $5,000 per month. I would say personally, you don't need necessarily that high. I've got clients quite happily at $2,000 per month, but you need to then really simplify the funnel down to maybe a couple of steps. If you really want traction for your business, that kind of 4 or 5K is really good there, because the CPM, your cost per 1,000 impressions, is higher on LinkedIn. Your cost per lead is higher. There is always what I call like a safety valve. If you run ads for 3 months on LinkedIn and you're just not going anywhere, you can pause. You're not tied into, guaranteed minimum spends on these platforms. So there's lots of ways you can start small. You can pause if it's not working, but kind of like 2 to 5K, if at all possible, is highly recommended on LinkedIn.
And do companies need to work with agencies, or can they do it themselves?
That's a good question. I would say that, especially on LinkedIn, where the ad platform is quite expensive and there are some traps. I call them traps. Like if you check the wrong boxes, it can burn through your money there. So it can be good to get guidance. Now, there could be an agency. It could be getting some strategy sessions. Like I offer like one-to-one strategy sessions, or I provide something that's I provide to Breadcrumbs and to others, which is what I call a managed ad service. So it's not a full service agency that's doing video production and specialist copywriting, but I'm one of those geeks that do focus 100% on the ads. So if you've got like some in-house marketing people that can like take care of the technical things like connecting up your CRM, like getting somebody that can manage the ads or at least be doing some auditing strategy advice is good. So yeah, I would say, especially for LinkedIn and the complexity of the ad platforms, some kind of assistance, unless if you're big enough, yes, you can have an in-house specialist, but generally like an agency or just somebody that can help you, that's working on other ad accounts and you can see what's working now and what isn't, can be useful, because I can really take the funnels that I've learned from other businesses and apply that, just kind of roll that out to the next client. And that can save them $10,000, $20,000 in learning and testing there.
For sure. Well, listen, Paul, thank you so much. Super informative, super insightful. I cannot sing your praises highly enough. For those of you that are looking for some support, Paul is more than a geek. I think that's a little self-deprecating. Paul, you are a superstar. He has been instrumental to our business. Highly would recommend him. Please reach out if you're looking for some assistance. As he highlighted during our session, Hot Takes Live. Stay tuned for some of Paul's work promoting Hot Takes Live, which will be happening at the end of June. And if you enjoyed this session, a month from today, we will be joined by Christy Horseman. She is VP of Marketing at Thinkific, and she is going to be sharing how she dramatically increased speed to lead with her sales organization and doubled her MQL to op conversion rate thanks to lead scoring. So obviously, I'm super excited for that session. I hope you can all join us for that one. Once again, thank you, Paul, and thank you to everyone who joined us today.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, everyone.